All right. Where would you like to live after you leave home? I think we've all left home.
I have not. Still live in the basement.
Yeah.
That's an
what?
awkward question. Let's redo.
Yeah, let's redo.
Yeah.
All right. Let's.
Sometimes these fail.
I think these are actually geared towards a teenager, so that would make more sense.
Well, no,
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
Because it says table topics for teens.
It does. Oh yeah, I did grab the teen one. It's
perfect.
We're just a bunch of teenagers.
I love this.
Sure.
All right. Who of your friends would be the most likely to survive in the wilderness for 5 days?
5 days. What?
Oh,
None of them.
Can I get a definition of wilderness?
Okay.
He's not here, but I'm going to say his name, David Cato. He's probably the most prepared person I know.
Okay.
He's an outdoorsy guy.
Yeah.
Bare hands or with his gun, or I'm going to use whatever I can to make a fire, and we're going to grill it up and make it nice. Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm fat enough.
5 days. You're just like, I just
5
sit
days,
there
that's a
and do
good diet.
nothing.
I'm just gonna lay out in the
That's a good
wilderness for
diet
5
right
days.
there.
He's like, I'm just gonna sit.
As long as it's not
why
naked
not?
and afraid.
Yeah.
I'm good. Like,
Find a nice comfy tree, just lay back, and just chill.
Get a good nap. Yeah.
yeah.
So you're abdicating the role of friend and saying, it's just me.
It's just me.
It's just
The
me.
fat guy.
That's great.
Lee is my guy.
man.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with.
Lee. He's my guy too. What the heck, dude?
Oh, man. I guess
yeah.
I take back my previous statement and say, Lee's my guy.
Lee's my guy.
Man,
I'll change mine. David Cato.
David Cato, there you go.
I just think about like all my friends and I'm like, man, you know what? I don't know any like 5, like 3 days. Yeah. But 5, that's
5 days in the
there's some
wilderness.
things you got to know. Like water is a big deal.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
Food is whatever. Food is like, you don't even care about food at that point.
Yeah,
5
5
days is
days you
nothing.
can make. Yeah.
But water is a little bit more important. I'm going to give my boy a shout out. I think Riley could survive for 5 days in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really care what kind of wilderness it is, except desert. No, you're not. He likes it ice cold everywhere he's at, so he ain't going to do no
Desert's
desert.
nice and chill at night, though.
Yeah, but water,
Oh, yeah.
bro. It's
Yeah,
the
water,
hardest
yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Now I realize what you said about defining wilderness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any wilderness space.
Any wilderness.
Guy named John House, I think.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
Yeah, I think he could hunt, water, do all of it. I think that's, I think he'd have no problem with 5 days.
I almost want to say like any ex-military. Probably.
Not me.
No.
Other than the fat guy thing.
He's like,
I'm not.
I feel like you open yourself up to Navy jokes whenever you say that.
Yeah. It's not even a Navy thing. It's just me. I don't know how I ended up in the military.
Come on now.
I mean, my whole thing was to stay out of the water. Like, that's the whole point of the Navy, right? So I did that well. But
Yeah. Well, welcome to the podcast. So, another moment of dramatic intro. Jason, take us away.
let's get started. From Harry Potter and football to The Office and Taylor Swift, people have joined the world of fandom, sometimes even obsession. But why? Why are people drawn to fandom? Hey, Eric, what is fandom?
Man, when I think about fandom, first of all, I did a little research, kind of like you did. Like, what is fandom?
Glad
like
somebody's responsible.
The word that came out equal to fandom was community. Like, like people want to. I think people want to belong to something, and when they find other people with similar tastes, they're drawn together. So you have community. What else? Because we all just want to belong. Sorry. What did you find out?
So Oxford
Yes.
defines it as the state or condition of being a fan of someone or something. Cambridge throws on especially a very enthusiastic one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting. A couple of years ago, I'd never heard the word before. And my daughter started we got her Instagram, and she's 15. And so she's not 2. Just wanted to clarify that.
I'm glad.
She's 15, and so she starts checking out all these anime fandoms, and she's like, "Dad, you know fandom," and I was like, "What are you saying? What is that word? Fandom?" I was like, "What is that?" And so she had to explain to me what a fandom was, and now it's all the rage. Everybody, I'm in this fandom, I'm in that fandom.
Oh yeah.
It's really bizarre to me.
So they just linked in the word. It's called a fan.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I think it's more than just a fan. It's
Oh, hey.
That's
Okay.
what it is.
Kingdom
Yeah,
fandom.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
good.
you're more than just a fan. You've taken it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
It's like I'm
Yeah,
not just
I
like
guess-
I'm part of that team. No,
That's-
it's
so
like
I guess that's why the obsession word was in that first.
Yeah.
Mm.
In my extensive research, I also checked Wikipedia, the place of
Vast knowledge.
yeah. But I actually do think it has it says a subculture composed of fans characterized by feelings of empathy and camaraderie with others who share a common interest.
right.
So I think that's a great that is fandom.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the Cambridge with enthusiasm.
With enthusiasm. Yes, I wrote down the same thing.
Yeah,
With
for sure.
enthusiasm. Like
Yeah.
you're a part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Again, I think everybody wants to belong, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely agree because I have what some would call an addictive personality. Okay. I go a little bit further than most
Yeah.
when doing things. A lot of people knew I'm really big into superheroes. Always have been, all the comics and things like that. But more than anything, I love action figures. I don't know why, but when I was a kid, I always had these action figures. I loved playing with them. I kept most of them, collected them, and then all of a sudden I got money. And I was like, dude, you know what I'm going to do with all this money? Not anything responsible. No, not at all. I'm going to go broke buying all the cool action figures I can find that I always wanted when I was a kid and put them on a shelf. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I had a lot. Like, I think I had probably like 1,000 figures in my room at one point.
Wow.
And so it was after that, like self-evaluation, right? You're like, I think I belong to a fandom. I think I'm a little bit obsessed with this world
Of action
of
figures.
not just action figures, but
The comic book world they belong to?
yes, but more of the novelty, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And what's the other word? Nostalgia.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of things that I love is based in nostalgia. And so that's like the first thing I think of when I think of fandom.
That's why I love
is
Star
there's
Wars.
something about whatever you are a fan of with enthusiasm, you know, is
Yeah.
because it has some nostalgic representation in your life. You look back on something and you have like, this was a good memory. And for me, that was my dad. Like we watched cartoons in the morning. Batman, Spider-Man,
Nice.
all that stuff, Power Rangers. We watched sci-fi stuff. I mean, I loved it all. My dad did too. So watching that with him gave me the same love, and I carried that into my adulthood.
Right. You're part of something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
than
felt
you.
like I belonged. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what drives fandom. Like you said, like wanting to connect to a community, right?
Yeah.
There's something in us that desires to connect and be with.
Right.
Right. Bring out the spiritual side of this thing, Genesis 2, right? Like right off the bat, like God made us and said, hey, it's not good that
good
they're
to be
alone.
alone.
Yeah, to be alone.
Like there's something in us that desires
Yeah.
that connection, that relationship. Fandom is a place that people are doing that. They're finding places to connect. Sometimes in not so healthy ways. It
Call
can
that
get
obsession.
obsessive.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a big thing right now called toxic fans.
Yeah.
And that's the dark side of it, right? Like
Yeah.
when you get too far in,
Mhm.
people are
I think Stephen King wrote a novel called Misery.
yeah,
about just
misery.
that.
Like that's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But I mean, you got people that are attacking celebrities because they've broken up or whatever. Like they're such a fan of the celebrity, and some other person comes along, and now like they're getting death threats because they've ruined their favorite relationship.
It's a bit much.
Yeah. So like fandom can be a little over the top as well.
Yeah, it can go on either side of the spectrum of being something that's very warm, welcoming, and inviting, and a positive thing to be a part of, or it can reach that dark
Becoming an
side.
identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes who you are, and if anything about what the thing that you share your identity with changes, it can lead to a dark place for people.
Yeah, because it's about identity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's the identification aspect of that, and I think that has been blown up huge because of social media.
Oh yeah.
You think back in the day, you're like, oh, I've got a Star Wars character. You got a Star Wars character. I got a G.I. Joe character. You got a G.I. Joe character.
Yeah.
And we were fans, but it wasn't to the extreme that it is now.
Yeah.
Now people identify as, oh yeah, I'm so-and-so. And they like make their usernames, like Yellowstone fan 32.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see it with gamer tags too.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I get on there and I see gamer tags that are linking to like different shows and other content and characters and stuff. And
I just realized Secret Agent 37. Big James Bond.
Yeah.
So-
oh, that's got
So
a
that's part of
huge
your-
I mean,
world of
it's,
fandom there.
It's everywhere, and that's the if let's back up off the toxic part of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
I mean, it's there to exist, and I totally you have to acknowledge it. I mean, you should anyway. That's the healthy way to do it. But like to pull back from that, it's like this is a bond that a lot of people carry.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Like I think about how many movies that Lee, you and I have seen where we spent like literally hours in the parking lot dissecting. You know,
Should have left like 3 hours ago.
yeah.
No doubt.
It's stuff like that. Or there's coworkers I have that we love Star Wars, and so talking about the lore and the different things that are coming out. Like we were all at lunch one time, and someone said, "Did you see this?" And next thing you know, two people popped up and were in part of the conversation that we didn't know were fans.
Oh, wow.
And the
Yeah.
other people at the table were like, "Really?" And so literally we dominated the whole
Oh, man.
sorry, but we dominated the whole lunch talking and geeking out about what we liked about certain things.
Yeah.
The other two people at the table were just like, "Wow, this was a great lunch to be a part of."
I can't
Glad
tell
I
you how many
came.
times I've probably done that.
Yeah.
Everybody knows I like to talk, which is, wait, hold on. What are we doing here?
That's
Yeah.
kind of the premise.
I think that's the point.
Chatting it up.
Yeah.
So, fun fact: anybody know what is considered the first modern fandom?
First modern fan.
Yeah. Modern fandom.
Shakespeare.
It was,
Football?
no.
Man.
So, Sherlock Holmes.
Mm,
Sherlock Holmes books.
I'm in that fandom.
When the character was killed off, people got together, had
Yes.
a big demonstration.
Wait.
Yes.
And
They
brought
killed him
him
off?
back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, in the
book,
Yeah.
original
yeah,
books.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What in the world?
Yeah, Moriarty, come on.
You didn't know this?
Yeah,
I
sorry.
didn't. I
Sorry,
guess I'm not as
spoiler
much of a
alert.
fan.
I mean, it only came
Thanks.
out in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, it's a little bit.
Get with the
But-
program.
Black
Still
and
waiting for the next
falls.
movie.
You're not a fan.
He falls, he dies, and because Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was done, he was like, I am so done with this character, and he wanted to talk about other things and
Yeah.
spiritualism and other stuff.
Yeah.
And they said no. There was such a huge outcry from the public. They were basically, I mean, he couldn't go anywhere in public without people just berating him. So he brought him back.
And it was also one of the first like things that people started writing fan fiction. Like they started writing
Yeah.
their own
Okay, yeah.
stories
Okay, that's
about
cool.
Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's another thing I love about fandom.
Creative
Fan
inspiration.
fiction. Absolutely love that. I kind of, I totally get where they're coming from when large corporations or someone who owns like a name or a brand or a series or whatever, they get kind of mad at some of this stuff because they're like, hey, you're taking creative liberties where you don't have the rights. But
Right.
at the same time, I mean, like, it is given so much value to the universe of whatever you're a fan of.
Sure.
Troops.
The two largest ones I can think of is Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
those two are massive fan bases, have been for years, and there's so many other things that have been brought to the table because of fans writing their own
Yeah.
versions or their own. They're like, I want to see this character or this thing happen in here.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what we've gotten to see is a company who cares about the fans so much that they've taken fan created literature or movies and applied some of that into
Yeah.
their movies or into their cartoons and stuff. It's
I think the
amazing.
Mandalorian series is definitely that. Like they've done so much of that. Like
Yeah.
taking little snippets that, people online created this whole little, hey, what if this happened?
Yeah.
And they're like, ooh, okay, yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
I love that. The creative inspiration that comes from
Fandoms.
fandoms is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And often I feel like they take, like, even with Star Wars, I remember seeing fan made stuff where I'm like, I would have liked to seen this on the screen, or like everyone's wondering what would this be like if, and then they're thinking the same thing, obviously, and they make their own. And I'm like, oh, that was that was pretty awesome. What would it be like if I had the Force? And these guys are like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And you know, as I said before, I was a big collector of action figures and things. I love miniatures, all that kind of stuff. And so in that fandom, in that world that I belong to, was you see people taking figures and customizing. You see people taking pop vinyls and from Funko and stuff, and they'll be creating their own because they want a variation that they never printed. So people are like, hey, I want, you know, a Spider-Man figure, but there was this outfit he wore in this one film or this one comic that they don't actually print. And so they're like, okay, so they're able to create these things with these action figures. And,
Right.
and then you have really talented people who can sculpt from scratch and make figures and stuff. So you see that a lot across the board of how fandoms have brought so much more to these, I don't even know what they're called really. I mean, other than series and interest and stuff, but
Well, now with 3D printers, a lot of people can
oh yeah, that's a huge,
do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think about the impact on pop culture. You know, like because of people's love for comics and things like Star Wars, you have Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Or a con that goes, you know, a conference that goes with anything you can think of, like everything from The Office to Star Wars or to like anime, like you were talking about, that your daughter loved. You know, it's huge.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about that too is I've been to a couple of Comic Cons and I really enjoy them because it reminds me of a kid that I knew in high school. He was the way I would describe him when I knew him in school was he was kind of a shell of a person. He didn't have a lot of presence where he was at. I often remember seeing people pick on him. You know, I try to be as friendly as I can with anybody that I meet. And so, you know, I would be friendly with him, but he wouldn't have a lot to say or his conversations wouldn't be that long or deep or anything. But I remember seeing this kid at the Comic-Con that I went to, is Comic Palooza in Houston. And he was there when I went with that group and I saw him and he was decked out to the max with his cosplay. And he was alive, energetic, talking to his friends. He was in line waiting to see, you know, his favorite characters from his anime that he loved. And it just reminded me that sometimes it takes that spark or that interest of feeling like you belong and you're one of the group to bring out who you truly are. And it's like maybe school wasn't his place or people were treating him bad. So he's just like, I don't want to be myself here, or he feels like he can't. But sometimes when you feel like you belong to something, it brings out the best in you.
Oh yeah.
Which is really cool. So I love that about it.
I think it's one of the, like, I read an article today about heavy metal and just like how for a lot of years people would look down on it and so on and so forth, but it has expanded and become such a huge genre. And though some might say it's going away, it's never coming back. Like I disagree wholeheartedly. And one of the things that it brought up in the article is one of the things that I've witnessed there is like you feel like you belong to whatever's happening, even so much to say like there's a camaraderie there. Like when the mosh pit is happening and someone falls, like there is a massive amount of people pushing everybody out of the way, picking them up. I'm like, are you okay? Yes. All right, go. And then, you know, it's like, I'm going to take care of you. There's a few malicious people there from time to time, as there can be in any event for sure. But there is a camaraderie there. Like I'm a part of this. Like that guy up there or gal up there is screaming, and it connects with me in my soul, and all of these people are connected with it in their souls, and we're a part of something. Again, it goes back to being a part of something so much bigger than yourself.
Yeah, finding that connection. You know, when you excuse me, you'd asked about pop culture. Like, how does this really push in pop culture?
Right.
And I think about like fandoms have saved series. How like something will be canceled and then they come in and like, you know, get it back on.
Right.
Or they will you know, the whole Snyder.
Oh, I was about to
like,
say,
I mean, like
Snyder.
I think that
Snyder
you know.
cut.
I think that's a great example of like what fandom.
I had no
can do when
idea
they
that
work
people
together.
had so much power that they could take one of the largest businesses in the world in Hollywood and make them literally stitch together a whole new movie that was 4 hours long just to appease the fans.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, that's back like when The Lord of the Rings was originally written in Britain, when the books were released and people didn't know what was happening. And at the end of the second book, it looks like Frodo's a goner, you know. But then the third book came out and people were spray painting on subway stations, Frodo lives. I mean, that's how intense that was back then. And yeah, I mean, it's only grown.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Man, So it's one of those instances where it makes me think, and I know it might go too deep. I don't know if anybody's ready for this out there, but I grew up in church.
I was gonna say you're going where I was
Yeah. I grew up in church. I love Jesus. Everybody at this table, we are Christians. We love Jesus, and I'm sitting here talking about fandom and all these things that we express ourselves with, and how deeply they enrich our lives. And I can't help but to feel a little convicted, because I think of so many instances in my life where I have poured out so much enthusiasm, charisma, time, money into these things, and I have failed to do so for my beliefs, my God, right? And it's almost, what can I learn? What can I learn when I look at this idea of fandom? Even the dictionary definition. Am I applying the same kind of sense of belonging and importance to my religion and my God as I do as these fandom things? What do you guys think?
That is interesting. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Interesting. To me, I think I don't want to be a Jesus fan.
No.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to be a Jesus fan. I don't want to be like, oh man, I like that guy. He does some good stuff.
I'm a fan of him.
I want to be the person who's a Jesus follower.
That's good.
And that's an active relationship. And
Sure.
so that's the difference. To me, the difference between these fandoms, I may never get to meet Harrison Ford, but I love Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. I love Harrison Ford as this character, I may never get to meet him. I may never get to know him, but I get to know Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I get to have that relationship with him on the daily. And so it's not a fan, it's a relationship.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying though. There are times when, people go, what? And it goes back to this identity thing. Like, where do you find your identity in? And they go, oh yeah. I like, this, and they find their identity in that, instead of saying first and foremost, no, I follow Jesus. That's what I do.
Yeah.
That's who I am. That's what the most important part of me. And I'm guilty of that. I think we're all guilty of that.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
We identify as something other than the most important thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we do that just because it's a given. Like, we assume it's a given.
Yeah.
Like, no, come on. No, that's a given.
Yeah.
That's understood. Like, I'm a human being. Why do I got to explain that?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I think it's just because maybe we're not, our heart isn't where it's supposed to be. I don't know.
It's interesting you brought up that, because, like, again, one of the bad sides of fandom is this fake connection. Right?
Yeah.
Because, like, I can have a fake relationship with Harrison Ford. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You brought up Harrison Ford. I can know everything about him. I can feel like I'm connected and I have a relationship, but it's not a real relationship.
Like, do you know him?
Yeah, but I don't know him.
More importantly, does he know you?
Well, then what happens though, because it's not a real relationship, I can start having some mental issues.
Yeah.
Just like it is a real relationship, and I'm being ignored by the other person, and we see that, like,
Stalkers. And
like, it does lead to that kind of thing. So again, I think fandom's a great thing, but when it takes over, like, those real relationships, then we got problems.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I want to address what you were saying, because you talk about, like, you feel convicted about, and your heart, so only you can really say. But I mean, you do. I mean, as a person who has the privilege of being able to go to to church and fellowship together, man, I could definitely say, by the fruit demonstrated by the men at this table, you are a part of something so much bigger than yourself, and an identity that's so much bigger than you, and it's an identity in Jesus. And we're all fans of stuff. We could passionately talk about movies like we did earlier. We can passionately talk about all kinds of different things that happen in our lives. But I know for a fact, and I've seen with my own eyes and heard with my own ears, that you're passionately in love with Jesus as well, and He impacts and convicts and transforms everything about your life, from the way you father, to the way you husband, to the way you work, to the it impacts and infiltrates everything that you do, and including putting your fandom and other things in check. So I would think you demonstrated that earlier, but I can say for a fact, man, just by witness alone, I would say your identity is something so much greater and so much more amazing than just yourself, and it's in Jesus, and that's amazing to watch, because it is more than just a religion. It's not a behavior. It's not I changed my behavior so I'm good. It's like you can see the fruit of lifestyle change.
Yeah.
Because of that identity, and that's what I love about that, and that's where, this idea of fandom and community. I'll leave the fandom word alone for a second and go to community. Like that's the beauty of what we're a part of. Is it brings people that are the most unlikely people to the same table. Like
sure.
that we may not ever do anything with or interact with outside of, and we all get brought together because we are a part of something so much bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing that people from all different walks of life can join together in something that they gain life from, or whatever it is they're looking for. Whether it be, as we're talking about our faith, or any of the number of things we listed before this, like people find a sense of self-worth, because you are a part of something that's bigger than you. I think a lot of people strive for that, to be a part of something that's bigger than just them.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah, I mean, as we kind of wrap up, one of the things that I'll say about kind of the way fandom has personally influenced me was actually allowing me to find ways to spend my time productively. I know that sounds weird with fandom, but it comes to a point where if you're somebody like me who's got the addictive personality, there's a lot of things I get involved with, whether it be, woodworking, graphic design, collecting action figures or whatever it may be. You find that you start to get piled up with all this stuff. And you realize whenever you're part of a community, you start to be like, okay, I can't handle everything all at once. And then you start to see friendships develop, and that are actually a lot more healthy than maybe some of the other things you're doing on your own. And I've seen that through a lot of different things. Like I've met some of my closest friends through that. Benji, you guys know Benji. So he's one of my great friends because we met over things that we had in similarity of fandom, like, the different shows we talk about. And so it developed really great friendships.
Yeah. So you mentioned action figures. What are like, if we go around real quick, what are top 3 fandoms for you? And if we just go around real quick, you said action figures.
Yeah.
What are the
superhero stuff for sure?
Superheroes.
Any kind of movies. I love all the MCU and DC stuff.
Okay.
And then other than that, it's really film, like creative culture stuff.
Yeah. Creating films.
I've watched all sorts of stuff. I have, I follow a lot of YouTube channels, Instagram, stuff like that. So I watch all that kind of stuff. Those are my top ones for sure.
Derek, what about you? Top 3.
Huge fan of MMA. Huge fan. If I didn't have a broken body, I'd love to be training and fighting myself. I'm a fan of movies, especially like in the Star Wars and sci-fi, that kind of stuff. And on the video game side of things, I was thinking like, what am I really a fan of? What really probably Halo, 2007 back, because that's when Bungie was before Bungie and everything separated. So like Halo 3 and back, I was like, man, I was huge, big into the lore, big into the games, and there was a lot of community development there as well.
Yeah. Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Doctor Who.
Nice.
I've actually watched most episodes going back to like the 50s.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, so Doctor Who for sure. I would say like Final Fantasy, all the Final Fantasy games.
Awesome.
So, like I haven't played the most recent, but big fan of those. Been playing since they came out. And then board games. I think board games is a big one.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, I did know. I definitely knew that about you.
I play a lot of board games, all kinds of styles, all over the place. So
Cool.
that's probably my top 3.
Well, awesome.
For me,
Oh, he wants to share.
yeah,
his.
if that's okay.
Oh, it's an ending.
He's like, well, let me shut it down. I would say Secret Agents, but also specifically James Bond, and then detectives, and specifically Sherlock Holmes, and then Magic.
Nice.
Yeah, which is not Magic the Gathering, not the card.
No, yeah. A lot of people would be confused.
Yeah.
Misdirection.
Illusion. There you go. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, you mentioned the Prestige earlier.
I did.
Got that
Prestige
vibe going to it. Yeah.
Yes.
Great
Oh,
movie.
such a good movie.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man.
That's
yeah.
it.
One of the things I would love to hear from anybody listening, watching, let us know what fandom you belong to. Is there anything that like you are devoted to, you absolutely love? I know there are a ton of The Office fans out there, and you'll probably comment. We'll probably see those. But yeah, let us know if there's anything we missed that we probably should have talked about because it's a large fan base. And please don't bring Taylor Swift back up. Let us know. And, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you next time on Forethought Podcast. Peace out.